sir.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm happy to report that as a result of a collaborative effort of several law enforcement agencies, a well-organized crime ring has been dismantled and put out of business. Earlier this week, the two remaining members of a very prolific group of burglars, known as the Rock Smash Burglary Crew, were arrested in West Seattle by members of the Bellevue Police Department's Special Operations Group, assisted by the Bellevue SWAT team. Following a 9-month-long investigation, 3 dangerous criminals were off the streets and behind bars. This lengthy investigation involved officers and civilian staff from the Seattle Police Department, Kirkland Police Department, King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, Mercer Island Police Department, Medina Police Department, and the Bellevue Police Department. Additionally, members of the King County Sheriff's Office, Washington State Patrol, Clyde Hill Police Department, and Mount Lake Terrace Police Department contributed to the successful outcome of the investigation. This team of burglars was responsible for stealing property whose cumulative value totaled close to $3 million. The target of their crimes were luxury homes where they were confident certain valuables would be present. They focused on stealing expensive jewelry, cash, and designer handbags. We estimate these criminals were responsible for at least 123 residential burglaries in our region, including 54 residential burglaries in Bellevue alone. Arrested in connection with this criminal enterprise include 25-year-old Alonzo Severson, 26-year-old Joseph Sims, and 29-year-old Sean Chanel. These 3 criminals burglarized homes during the late afternoon hours and early evening hours, oftentimes when people were home. They successfully defeated home alarm systems and spent very little time inside the homes they burglarized. Evidence indicates they may have been armed during these crimes. While I will not get into the specifics of our techniques and tools used to apprehend these 3 individuals, I will say multiple agencies spent hundreds of investigative hours collectively on this case. And as always, the cooperation of victims and witnesses proved to be invaluable. One victim of this crime ring, who has given us permission to tell his story, is Seattle Mariners pitcher Felix Hernandez. In November 2016, Mr. Hernandez arrived home to find his house had been burglarized. Among the property stolen from his home was his 2015 Major League Baseball All-Star ring and a customized wristwatch that was quite unique. At the time of his arrest, Mr. Chanel was wearing this wristwatch with the name King Felix engraved on it. Compelling evidence linking Mr. Chanel to this crime, I would say, without a doubt. This watch, along with other recovered property taken from the many victims, will soon be returned to the rightful owners. We're still in the process of cataloging and processing hundreds of pieces of evidence to include over 700 pieces of jewelry. As of last evening, we estimate we have recovered property valued close to $400,000, and that number will increase. It appears that the motivation for these crimes was purely greed. These criminals used the spoils of their crimes to rent and purchase very expensive sports cars, patronize local strip clubs, travel to Las Vegas, and dine at some of our region's finest restaurants. Well, they won't be doing much traveling any longer, and their next meal will be served in the King County Jail. I would like to conclude my remarks by commending the men and women who worked tenaciously to bring these criminals to justice. I would also like to thank the law enforcement agencies represented here today and those that were unable to attend this press conference for their partnerships and their commitment to keep all of our communities safe. The level of cooperation between all of our agencies is one that stands as a model for all regions. To further elaborate on this team effort, I would like to invite Deputy Chief Carmen Best to the microphone.
Thank you, Steve. Chief Milet. I think what Chief Milet says goes to show that crime doesn't have borders. Thanks to a collaborative partnership, these suspects were arrested and they will be held accountable. These are significant arrests and a great example of what we can accomplish by working together and harnessing our resources. As with anyone who has been a victim of a burglary, myself included, I know that they feel grief and that they feel that they've been violated. And I'm hopeful that these arrests can offer some peace of mind. The Bellevue Police Department did an outstanding job under Chief Milet. Under his leadership, they've done just a great job here. I commend them for their great work and their tireless dedication. I also want to recognize from our own department, our Major Crimes Task Force, who also was involved in this investigation. And as a result, our detectives have sent 36 of these cases to the King County Prosecutor's Office. These cases date back to April 2016, but they may go back even earlier. We believe that these same suspects may be responsible for dozens more cases. We do not believe that there are any other outstanding suspects at this time. Seattle detectives will reach out to Seattle burglary victims in an effort to reunite and recover them to their property. And we have a link for folks who may want to contact us and get their property back. So on behalf of SPD and certainly Chief O'Toole, who was called away for a very important phone call, I would just want to say thank you to the Bellevue Police Department, to Chief Milet. His continued partnership and friendship have gone a long way. We will continue to not only take people into custody, but also to prevent crime working collaboratively. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Chief. At this time, I would invite Kirkland Police Chief Sherry Harris to come up and share a few words.
Thank you, Chief Milet. The Kirkland Police Department has worked closely with our neighboring agencies to solve the destructive, intrusive crimes of homes in quiet neighborhoods. You should know, if you commit a crime in Kirkland, we will leverage the power of these partnerships to do everything we can to put you away for a long time. I am very proud of the men and women in the Kirkland Police Department that work very closely with our neighboring agencies to solve these crimes. They worked long hours and have not given up when there was very little hope. And so we're very thankful.
And I would also invite Mercer Island Police Chief Ed Holmes to say a couple of words.
Thank you. So you've heard some discussion today about the partnerships we have with each other, the law enforcement communities in this region, but we also have a partnership with our communities themselves, with the members of our communities, the citizens of our communities, and we do a lot of work trying to reach out to our citizens and get them engaged in helping us and being partners in trying to help us keep our respective communities safe. In this case here, it turned out it started by a phone that was found in someone's backyard on Mercer Island. That citizen thought to call us. Apparently her neighbor had also had someone in the backyard the day before, looked suspicious, so this resident thought to call the police rather than just throwing this phone out. And upon calling us, the officer, I think it was Officer Gyra, took the report, and while he was taking the report, noticed the phone call came, so a number appeared on the screen. He took the time to write that number down, entered it in the system, and that's when this case grew some legs, if you will, and Bellevue Police saw that number. It was associated with something they had been working on with their end. So then this case went forward with a starting point, again, of a citizen taking the time, seeing something that didn't look right, and calling the police. So again, the message to everybody here is we really are in this partnership, not only with each other and the surrounding agencies, but with each and every one of you out in the communities. We need your help. We all need your help in keeping our communities safe. So please do that. When something doesn't look right, please call us. We encourage you. Couldn't encourage you more strongly to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Archer?
I have nothing to say other than I'm very proud to be part of these agencies and working together in cooperation to put these individuals behind bars.
Chief Burns and Medina.
I'm probably the agency that had the fewest number of impact, but the thing I'm most proud about is just the way the law enforcement came together. Though Medina's not a big agency, our residents expect a high level of service, and it was great to work with the other agencies, Bellevue, Seattle, and just the partnership and the information that they provided to us so we could give it back to our citizens so they knew that we were taking this serious. So again, I'll echo what's been said. It was a team effort, but I really want to thank Bellevue for taking the lead and really helping our residents out. So thank you.
So as you can see from this map, these individuals knew no boundaries. They were all over it. They were all over our region. and everybody was impacted by it. But if I can find the spot here right now, their current location would be somewhere in here. Is that where the King County Jail is? And that's where they're gonna stay. And the word I got is one of the individuals this morning was complaining about the single egg that he got at breakfast. A big difference from the very nice restaurants they were dining at here most recently in their trip to Las Vegas. So with that, I would welcome any questions that you might have for any of us.
First question, we're from West Seattle Blog, where the arrest actually happened the other day. I'm wondering if there's any information on how the suspects arrested there were linked to that house. Did they live there? Were they visiting?
So our detectives have been doing a phenomenal job, again, in collaboration with all of our partner agencies to track these individuals. This has been going on for quite a while. I can't get into the techniques and methods that we use because we don't want to expose that. But we had been following them for quite a while. And the last piece of evidence that we got, it always seemed like we were 2 or 3 minutes behind them. And they were very good at what they did. It's not that I'm going to give them credit, but I will say they were very talented in their criminal enterprise. They knew what they were doing. And they would do counter surveillance, and they would do other things to throw us off the trail. But just like with most crooks, they will leave some sort of signature behind that will lead us to them. And it took a little bit of patience, a little bit of time, but that's where we put them down, was there. And it was funny when Mr. Chanel was like this, he was like, wait a second, I know that piece of, that belongs to Mr. Hernandez. So it happened in West Seattle.
Was this tied at all to the burglary ring that was doing the door knocks during that day of the storm back in November, a lot in Medina and in Bellevue?
I don't know that.
Chevy Tahoe that was...
I don't have an answer, but we can find that out myself. Does anybody have?
It's not the
Can
same.
you talk about the timeline of returning the stolen merchandise to the victims and what that's going to look like?
Absolutely. So we're going to get everybody's property back into their possession just as quickly as possible. And I'm very thankful that you asked that question, because what I'm going to do now is introduce our investigations commander, Major Jerry Litsu, who's going to give some information on what people can do to be reunited with their property. Major.
Thanks, Chief. So the focus of our investigation now shifts to preparing the cases for prosecution and working to return recovered property to its rightful owners. We're in the process of cataloging and photographing all of the recovered property. We've completed about 30% of that so far, and we expect to have it fully completed by early next week. Anyone who believes that they may have been victimized by this group, if they live in the city of Seattle, they should contact the Seattle PD Major Crimes Task Force, and the email for that is spd5029@seattle.gov. If they believe they've been victimized and live in Bellevue or any of the other cities that we've listed today, they need to contact our detectives, and that email is pdtipline, so pdtipline@bellevuelaw.gov. From that, we'll arrange for them to be able to view the recovered property online after we photographed and cataloged all of it, and they just need to include the police case number of the original burglary report in that message. And that's what we'll do to start getting the property returned to them.
Thank you, Major. Allison, you had a question?
Yeah, Chief, you mentioned that these burglars would go into homes where people were actually inside at the time. Were they ever spotted by any homeowners? And if not, do you have any idea of how they managed to go by unseen?
Yes, they were spotted by homeowners. And in fact, one case in Kirkland, they held the homeowner. The homeowner didn't see a weapon, but we believe that weapons were present while they were stealing his property. There are suspects in this case. I think there's compelling evidence to link them to it. But this individual, this victim, was certainly terrorized by their acts. And think about it, when somebody enters into your castle, your home, that sanctuary, you violate it. And I'm hoping that by the fact that we have arrested these 3 individuals, that's going to bring some sort of comfort to the people who were victimized in this crime spree.
Given that they were traveling to Las Vegas, have you contacted Las Vegas police to coordinate with them?
I'm not sure that we have, but I'll get that information to you.
Can you talk about cataloging these items? I'm sure, we've all seen handbags, and the fake handbag market is pretty pretty well known. How do you know what actually is an Hermes, and how do you know what's a Louis Vuitton, and how's this process working for you guys?
We're going to consult with experts in that area.
Okay. Because a fake is only worth so much,
Fake is
and then,
worth
as
so
we've been
much.
told, a real bag is worth.
I think one of the bags here is worth $90,000, and I think there may be a bag here that is worth a couple $100,000, which, I wouldn't be able to spot the real one or rip-offs.
They're called the rock smash burglary victims, but can you kind of go into their MO of how they would break in?
So, and that is a name that law enforcement will frequently use a name to identify a particular group based on their behavior. So their method of operation is that they would defeat home alarms by smashing the outside panel, and then they would use a rock to smash a sliding glass door or window to gain entry. So in order to track these individuals and link them to their criminal enterprise, our detectives came up with the name the Rock Smash Burglary Crew, and I think it's very relevant and so.
So when the facts of the case come out, all these people who live out there who have, home burglary systems, is there advice that you can give them that, because they're going to want to know, how can they better protect their home? Because it sounds like these victims likely had some protection.
They did, and I, again, commend them for having the obstacles that they put in front of these criminals to slow them down and hopefully deter them from coming in. But the sad fact is that if somebody wants to commit a crime, our hope is that these obstacles are going to deter that, and they're not going to do it. But if they are set on doing it, they're going to accomplish what they've set out to do. But in the future, we will be working with the alarm companies to see if there's any other methods that homeowners can use and to eliminate this type of effort that they initiated by smashing the outside panels.
Chief, you touched on it briefly, but you're very confident that every person involved with this ring is now in custody?
Yes, I am. You never know where the investigation's going to lead. We're going to be talking to additional witnesses and others. And while I will not say conclusively that there is nobody else out there, we are quite confident, based on the evidence that we have in our possession, that these three individuals were the ones that were involved in these burglaries. Sir?
Just real quick, you said they insinuated that they had weapons, but did you find weapons on their person or in the vehicles?
So we have evidence, actually some video footage where we believe one of them is displaying a handgun. The handgun is clearly displayed, and we are working through making sure that the person displaying the weapon is the individual who we think it is. And again, I can't get into all the specific evidence, but they were there in this particular burglary.
How are they selling this stuff off or getting their hands on cash?
I don't have that information right now, but I will get that to you. I don't want to give you any information that is inaccurate.
What about, was it all in that house in West Seattle? Was it in storage, other places?
So
Where
we
did
have
that
safe deposit boxes that we're looking at. We have places in Seattle and other storage places that we are following up leads on to see if we can't recover even more property. So our detectives have cataloged about a third of everything that we have in our possession. And I'm not sure if that even includes what Seattle has in their possession. So we're, it's at the $400,000 mark, and I'm quite confident that that number's going to go up significantly. Especially if we find another handbag valued at $300,000.
Is there someone in here that could show you, I don't know which one it is. Which ones are the 100,000, 900,000, 90,000?
So the detectives that are involved in this. Sorry.
It helps us tell the story. It's like this bag is worth,
So I have detectives that are undercover officers that we can't show their identity. So I'm going to ask Sergeant McEllier, can you point it out to me?
The white one over there, 90,000.
This one?
Yes. You're not supposed to touch it.
You see, you set me up.
I didn't pay attention. Thank you, that helps.
Can you guys talk any further about the phone that was found in Mercer Island?
All I can say about that phone is, when the resident called it in as sort of a found property suspicious phone in my backyard, why is this here type of thing. My neighbor had a suspicious person in their backyard also. They thought to call us, and like I say, the officer came out, took the report, and happened to note the phone rang while it was in his possession, and he took note of the number that appeared on that. And then logged that into the system, and that was picked up by a Bellevue detective who was looking at that number on their side of things, so they made the connection between that phone, and they were able to get a search warrant for that phone based on a few other bits of information, and that helped them start making all the connections with the different dots here.
So that phone was connected to one of the suspects?
Yes.
Can you give us a timeline of when that phone was recovered?
I don't have that information here. I don't know if someone else here can speak to that. October 4th. Sounds like.
Do we have a timeline for the robberies, I mean the burglaries, like what kind of span we're looking at?
I'd have to get someone.
That's in your media packet.
It is.
So the time frame that we're looking at is between April of 2016 up until last week, 2 weeks ago. And so they had been at it for quite a while, and they were quite experienced in being a burglar. I can't get into their criminal history, but they were not new to this type of crime.
Can you talk a little further about the surveillance they did on these houses? They just parked outside?
Our officers or
The
was it
suspects.
the suspects? So they were casing multiple locations, and no, I can't.
Have they had their bail hearing?
Not that I'm aware of.
Chief, you mentioned that you apprehended 2 suspects earlier this week. The third suspect, when was he apprehended?
So he was apprehended, he actually had a Department of Corrections probation parole warrant out for his arrest. He was taken into custody. We knew who he was at that time, but our detectives were still building the case. And so when he stepped out of the jail thinking that he was going home, our detectives were right there saying, no, not yet. You have to answer for these crimes.
And
So
when was that?
I think that was on January 15th, I believe it was. So this crime and the total loss here in Bellevue is the most significant loss that we've ever witnessed in the city's history for property crimes. That's why they were so prolific in their efforts to steal. And what's represented here before you is a very small sample of what we have in our custody. We have taken 5 vehicles from them, 2 of which were purchased at some point over the last several months by these individuals, and we will be exploring asset forfeiture on some of these pieces of property. So Seth will lead you downstairs here shortly to take a look at those vehicles, if you're interested, and we'll take 2 more questions.
Chief, can you additionally confirm that that 2000 World Series ring from the Yankees belongs to Felix Hernandez as well?
Yes. I'm a Yankees fan too. I love the Mariners, I really do, but that one never got my interest.
Both rings there?
I'm sorry?
There are 2 rings there.
Yes,
So,
and we have some other property up here too. But yes, both of those we believe belong to Mr. Hernandez.
any other notable victims worth mentioning?
Mr. Hernandez gave us permission to share his story. There are others that have not, and so I can't get into any of the specifics of the victims. But the target of their crimes were homes in excess of $3 million.
So all the homes they hit and broke into were worth $3 million or more, so
The vast
they thought
majority.
they'd have this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So they were very selective in their target because they wanted to be quite confident that what they were looking for was going to be present. And cash, jewelry, expensive jewelry, and these expensive handbags.
And were they throwing a rock through a sliding glass door, waiting if someone comes, waiting for an alarm to go off, or are you able to tell any more about it?
I can't get into what they did, but what I will say is that that was their signature. And so our crime analysts, and the way this unfolded, it started in Mercer Island with a very alert officer. And then our crime analyst, Dr. Shauna Gibson, this is what she does. She puts 2 insignificant pieces of evidence together and try to link them. And then she's seeing this activity, and through her network of partners across the lake and elsewhere, she is starting to plot these, and it's the same signature. A rock is used to smash some sort of glass to gain entry, and then it's, they stole a lot of different pieces of property. but this was frequently what was stolen from these homes. And so she gathered all that intelligence information, and then she shared it with our detectives. And these very modest, humble individuals who I want to identify, but they've asked that I don't say their name, out of humility, did an outstanding job in their tenacious efforts to track these individuals and apprehend them. Again, through their network of partnerships with our area law enforcement agencies, it was really a beautiful thing to see.
Because of how prolific these guys were and the amount of stuff stolen, are your federal partners, is this case going federal?
We will explore every avenue to hold them to the highest level of accountability. And if that means that there could be some federal violations, we will consult with our partners there too.
Okay.